on the round number 4 of our Porsche Trophy Challenge. And in the commentary box, I have Ashley with me this evening for the Bravo tier. Ashley, how are you this evening?
I'm good, thank you, Dylan. And once again, we are here at the Porsche Cup, as you mentioned, at the Zolder track in Belgium. And I'm quite excited for this one. This is going to be an epic race, one of my favorite tracks.
Listen, I've also spent some good laps around here, some amazing battles in some of our previous championships, so definitely one of my favorites. And I do see in the background that we did our drivers briefing before we started the live stream, so the guys have already begun their qualifying. So let's just get rid of our faces and we can jump into the lobby. I'm not hearing any of the sound there. Let's make sure that all the sound is coming through. There it is. And what you can see is there's 15 drivers there, so we have lost one. We did start off with 16 drivers in the lobby, but still a very, very full grid this evening.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm hoping that, fingers crossed, that we have managed to sort out most of the bugs that some of the guys were having. Like you said, 15 guys in the lobby. One guy has disconnected so far, but I'm sure you'll be able to join. There's still 7 minutes left, so you should be able to join back into the lobby again. I'm not quite sure who that was, but we'll keep our eye out and let you guys know when he does come back in the lobby.
So some new drivers that have joined us for this evening is right at the top. We see a GG. That is actually a Jared Obermeyer. Driving in the F400 karting series. We raced against him 2 weeks ago, and he has joined us. We managed to get a couple of pictures of him building his rig, and we went and invited him to come and join us. So Jared, 15 years of age, he is going to be trying his luck here. There was a little bit of banter that happened earlier on our Discord, where we were saying Jared was talking about some of the guys he had passed. And then obviously the sim guys started coming back and saying, well, good luck trying to beat us here. So that was pretty awesome to see.
Yeah, and how was he against you when you broke that arm so famously?
Man, oh man.
How is your arm healing, Dylan?
So the arm is on the mend. I unfortunately won't make the next race, but we'll just take it each day as it comes.
That's good to hear. So I've just seen another 2 drivers have disconnected again, so I don't know what's going on in this game. Just seems to get worse and worse as we go on, but I'm just looking at the front there, the Horn Dog posting a 140.3, and that's a pretty good time to be in this car, in this the GT4s.
Yeah, so
followed by Marshall with a 141.6.
So
I didn't know what you wanted to
so
say.
the one person I wanted to just keep an eye on was Marshall. Is that I had done some laps with the guys last night. I did manage to get myself into a 140.1 using just the one hand, using my thumb to gear down and my middle finger to gear up, and that was quite interesting. But Marshall was doing some really good times there. So I'm seeing more and more guys are being disconnected. We are now down to 13, and that's not what we wanted to be seeing.
See, Terry was perhaps one of them, and Brandon. So that's a bit unfortunate.
So I just hope that Terry is able to get back in. I know that Reeve was having some issues with his connection, but I do see that he's still there in 7th place, so he's okay. Terry is now back on the track. You can see him just losing that rear coming out of turn number 1. Those tires were obviously still, sorry, it's turn number 2. Tires are still a little bit cold. Just quickly touching on the viewers that are currently here. So Raider Koch, he's from Luxembourg. He's here this evening. Ross is putting some code podium. Is his little code word that I managed to work out. And Daniel the War Machine Morales, he's here as well. I'm sure he'll be giving Johan VDV as much support as possible. Do see that Mal Jacques, we didn't really see much of his practice leading up to this race, but he's now done a 140.7. So he's now just over half a second behind the Horn Dog. Marshall still 1.2 seconds, and there's Johan VDV in 4th place. Peter Brunt, he's in 5th. He also did some practicing with us as well. And then Tyler Scott in 6th. And then we have Ryan. We can see him there in 7th place. And he just jumped on last night for a little bit of fun. Was driving in a GT3. There was a spot open for this evening's Bravo tier. He put his hand up and said, can he come and join us? So he's about half an hour practice in the GT4. So really good to see him coming and challenging the guys.
And I see Jared has picked up a bit of a penalty there already. I wonder if it was just perhaps speeding in the pits. It's sometimes you just forget to put your speed limiter on, or your pit limiter, should I say, and that can often catch you out. And see, he's cooling down the pits there, so he's obviously looking for his pit crew.
What it could also be is that the pit exit on this track is pretty nasty, and that's purely because you coming out of the pits and you've got quite a tight right-hander, and if you do cross that line, it does give you a warning there.
So still in first position with the 140.1 is the Horn Dog, followed by Jock, only 5/10 off, half a second, with a 140.7. Third, Marshall with a 141.1, and Peter Brunt in 4th position at the moment with a 141.6. So tight battle at the front at the moment for that first position.
Yeah, one of the other interesting things about this evening's race is that we do have some variable weather. So halfway through the race, we're going to have some light rain that will come and test the driver's skills, and we generally like to just mix things up. Over the last couple of seasons, we have kept it pretty standard, but thought that now is the right time to bring in the variable weather and see how the guys adapt with it.
Yeah, the guys are up to speed with this car. They're pretty used to it. Yeah, now throw a little bit of interesting obstacle, I would say. These cars in the rain, they seem to handle a little bit better than most cars. They have the traction control, they have ABS, so they are able to brake and get the power down much easier than say for the older type of cars that we use in other leagues. But I think we're gonna be in for some interesting racing. It's gonna all be down to the pit strategy. When will they come in? Will they stay out too late? They have to get that timing absolutely spot on. Otherwise, they're going to lose a lot of time trying to race around this track if it's too wet. Ooh, and as we see that, there's Johan. He's just dropped the end. Possibly just gearing down a little too hard for that chicane, and the end just got a bit loose, and he spun there.
So, sorry for my silence. I've just been doing a quick roll call to see who's missing. So I see that Ryan, he's disconnected, as well as Colin. I'm just doing the remainder of the roll call to see who else is out. And it looks like it's Troy. So we've lost Troy, Colin, and Ryan out of the 16 that have started this evening.
So I think that's the end of it. So with the top three all in the pits, the Horn Dog taking that session with a 140.1, followed by Wild Jock with a 140.5. Then in third position we have Marshall with a 141.2, and Peter Brunt fourth, Johan in fifth, Tyler Scott in sixth. We have Foot Fiery, who's still busy on the track at the moment, so he could possibly improve his time, and he's the seventh at the moment, followed by Reeve, Creeping Apple in 8th position, and it looks like he's completed his session as well. 9th position we have Brandon on the controller still, and our newcomer Jared. Is that Jared? Did I not have got his name right? GG in 10th position, followed by Papa Whiskey 11th, and 12th is Dane, and Terry in 13th. So I see now Papa Whiskey got disconnected, and I wonder if it's him that's actually having some internet issues this evening. Okay, well, tell the guys to retire and spectate. Guys, just retire and spectate, please.
So actually, I'm not too sure what is going on here, but there's definitely seems to be some weirdness happening here. On my screen, I've got cars jumping around and flying around. So I'm assuming that the guys are doing a bit of a restart in the background there, but that is extremely strange.
Yeah, well, I mean, this game has been doing this for the last, well, since we already started this game, it had endless problems with bugs and all sorts in it. But we have tried a number of things just to sort it out, and unfortunately, it doesn't really work. So I'm pretty much lost. What else we can do to resolve this?
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump out of that. At least Daniel's seeing the funny side of it and saying it's a rave. All we needed was some awesome background music. I do see Bokte. He's joined us saying that he's supporting Sim Stuff Racing. So that's Johan as well. You can see that I was actually disconnected out of that session as well. So we'll just wait for Tyler to resend us the invites. We will go into a rolling start. And the guys that were disconnected will need to just get themselves back into the lobby. But yeah, it does seem like the life of Project Cars 2 is coming to an end. So we'll definitely need to start looking at what is the future post this new season.
Yeah, it almost seems like they're not releasing any updates. And the game's probably falling behind from the PlayStation updates, and we just seem to have endless problems with it. And it's not just us that's having the problem. Many people around the world are experiencing the same problems. I just wish somebody there could sort these things out. But if their focus is more on the new game, I doubt they'll be putting more updates for the older versions.
Yeah, that's sad but true. But the focus of the Project Car series has moved away from what essentially we felt was sim racing, and they have gone to a more arcadic game, and that is obviously for them to choose. But yeah, unfortunately, from doing these type of races, putting in a qualifying time and then racing, is that is not available on Project Cars 3, and that's why the SARCO have chosen not to go that route.
So I see now another bug has happened is where all the mics have been muted.
No, so that's
I'm gonna have to.
No, you're fine. That's because we're in the director's role. Just wanted to see when. So Tyler did manage to get a picture up there. So we'll just remember that the current positions are as follows. Andrew Horn starts off in first, then it is Jacques in second, Marshall in third, Peter Brunt in fourth, then Johan in fifth place. That is Janneman, and apologies, Janneman is in on Monday nights. I kept calling him Greg, so there seems to be a little standing joke saying, how's it, Greg? But Tyler, he's in a seventh place with Creeping Apple, who's Reeve. He's in 8th. Brandon DeSantos in 9th place, and Jared in 10th. Then in 11th will be Stefan. Dane will be in 12th, and Terry 13th. Then after that, it will be Colin and Colin, Troy, and then Ryan. So guys, we are still running on time, even though we did have to do a lobby reset. We still will have the 40-minute race now. The guys will be getting into a formation, and don't forget, halfway through we will have some rain that's going to come, and man oh man, we know that that's going to be mixing the field up. Ashley, just in terms of your practice and the time spent in the rain, what is your feeling on the rain?
It gets a bit tricky because of the time progression. Light rain turns into a bit of a monsoon for the track. It doesn't seem to have a lot of runoff areas, so puddles do form in crucial parts of the track. So it's going to be quite tricky, especially in the chicanes. One coming into I think in the first chicane, it's when you exit. There's quite a big puddle on your left-hand side there, and then when you get to the second one, there's a puddle on the inside. So I'm expecting towards the end of the race, we're going to see a lot of guys going off and hitting those puddles and aquablading off. So the guys are now underway, and just remember to the viewers, they'll get into position now. After we had the disconnection issue.
Yeah, and you see that is generally the standard procedure here at SARCO, is that when the guys are doing the formation lap, the brief is for them to just move over to the left hand side to allow the cars to pass them on the right, and once they're in their right position, they are able to then once again move back into the middle of the track. It just makes getting into formation a little bit easier, and no incidences involved there. So actually, I think while the guys are on their out lap getting ready, we are able to just take a look at the current championship standings. And right on the top there, we do have Andrew Horn. So he's gone 3 for 3. That is Janneman. You can see in second place, 28 points behind the leader. But then we've got Johan and Tyler, both tied on 72 points, with Andrew Brogioni not here this evening. Andrew is away 7 points behind both Tyler and Johan. Dane, he makes up 40 points, so he's currently in 7th place with Greg. Greg, we just hope that everything is fine with the family. He's up there as well. And then France Flat Rabbit, he unfortunately 1 point between him and Greg, and he's not here this evening. So definitely looking like a one-man show, but we know that Mol Jacques, who's further down the field, as well as Marshall, they're going to really bring this challenge through to Andrew and hopefully not let him get away with it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Mol Jacques can apply some pressure to this race and give the Horn Dog a bit of a run for this money. And you see them coming out of the start finishing line. And I We are where we're going.
So Andrew's now crossed the start finish line, so he would have given the signal for the guys to go racing. And just looking on the inside, Johan moved to the inside there, so still in 4th place with Peter Brunt in 5th. And Andrew Horn looks like he timed that jump pretty decently. He has pulled Mal Jacques with him, so Jacques looked like he made just a little bit of mistake, but as they start accelerating through turn number 3, we're going to start seeing this very, very tricky section. This turn number 4 is quite quick, and if you run a little bit wide, you touch that dirt on the outside, that can really have bad consequences. Then into the incline chicane, that inside curve is extremely brutal. You can see a car that was the 3rd place, Marshall, just losing a little bit of his way there as he touched that curve. But then up over the hill through turn number 6, as that is Papa Whiskey. So that was Stefan there, unfortunately getting a little bit long through the chicane section.
I just see Sarge had a terrible start and he's way back in the field, almost 28 seconds down the pace. So I wonder what happened there. Looks like he's really struggling this evening. But out in front we have the Horn Dog, who's already opened up a 1.4 second gap over Mal Jacques. So he's already in a commanding lead right from the beginning of this race.
And I'm just looking closer. There's the battle that's now happening. So Marshall in 3rd place with Johan. Then there's Peter Tyler and Reeve, sorry, not Reeve, that's Janneman, with Reeve behind him. So 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th, just about 2 seconds down the field. So it is going to get extremely, extremely tricky as this race continues. But just remember, the guys are still trying to just get the rhythm, still figure out what the guys are doing out in front. And the racing is still definitely going to happen. We don't know what the strategies are for the race when we go to the rain, and a lot of the drivers would have played with setups to try and figure out what the best setup is. But for me, I make it as fast as possible in the dry, so you can make it up, because going into the wet, a wet setup on a dry track is very difficult.
Yeah, fortunately in the sim community we can predict what the weather is going to do. I mean, so the guys would have done a bit of practice. So we give all the settings on our website well in advance, so they can go out and practice and do a full-on race simulation, and they can actually time when the rain's going to come, how many laps they're going to stay out for, when they're going to pit, and I would assume the guys who've done their homework would have done that, so they know exactly when to pit. The other guys who haven't, well, unfortunately they're going to be in a bit of surprise later on in this race.
So actually, I'm just looking at our drivers. We are down to 15. We have lost one. Well, we've lost our host, Tyler Scott. I see that he's not in here anymore.
I did notice that he also got disconnected in the first session.
Little kick of the rear in the background, and that was Terry. You saw that Terry dropped down a position, so he got that a little bit bad. Coming out of the last corner, touch an outside curb, and the rear just rotated.
Yeah, you got to be very tricky in this car, especially at this track. That first corner is very, very tricky with this vehicle. If you gear down too late, or if you get it wrong, it'll send the car spinning around. And I think that's perhaps what we saw. That's actually the same thing happened to Johan during qualifying. So I wonder if he just braked a little bit too hard and was gearing down at the same time while trying to turn into the corner, and it just kicked the arse out and spun him around.
Yeah, so that definitely has got to do with your engine braking. Is that the higher that engine braking, when you drop down into the lower gear and you haven't quite straightened up the car, it does tend to rotate the rear of the car, and I'd like to take my engine braking off so that I don't experience those problems.
So still a good battle here between Johan and is that Peter Brunt?
That is correct.
And those two neck and neck at the moment. You see Johan just weaving around there, trying to break the slipstream of. Sorry, it's the other way around. I'm getting quite confused here. Sorry, it was Johan following Peter Brandt, and Peter Brandt was just trying to break the slipstream there.
I think Johan's trying to play some mind games there. You can see giving Peter just a little bit of a flash there, saying that I'm right behind you. Ooh, there was a little bit of a kick of that rear.
Further down the field we have Colin and Brandon also having a close battle.
So currently Brandon and Colin are fighting for 8th and 9th place, and Colin's son-in-law Dane is behind him in 10th. Troy, he is in 11th place with Terry in 12th. Oh, with that was Brandon losing it going through turn number 4. So I'm pretty sure he might have touched that inside curb going through 4, and that put him up against the wall.
I've just noticed this track is not the greatest for cameramen. They seem to really be battling to follow the cars around here. We can just blame cameraman Tim for those problems, ladies and gentlemen.
100% cameraman Tim. Oh, a little lock up there for Peter Brandt going into the hairpin, and I must say I really like that corner. So that is turn number 8. You coming up over the hill and line yourself up just past that 100-meter mark, hard on the brakes, and I just loved how this came in. It just rotates itself in.
So it looks like Peter Brandt's managed to open up a gap on Johan, and he's now applying a pressure to, is it Marshall?
So that's Marshall, yep.
In third position. Yes,
whoa!
So
did you see that? That was Johan. Went a little bit sideways. So I think he might have just got the braking a little bit wrong there, turned in too soon, and it looked like his rears had actually locked up there.
Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate, but it's still a long race. We've still got half an hour left of this race. If he just keeps his head down and keeps the car on the track, there's still some points up for grabs here.
And we must just remember, in the next 10 minutes or so, the guys are going to start seeing those little drops of water on their windscreen, and that will signal the start of the rain.
And then we're going to see some fun and games, Dylan, for sure. So through the S's, Marshall goes with Peter Brandt right on his tail. And it looks like Peter Brandt's much quicker through this section of the track. He's really applying pressure now.
Well, you can see that on the last lap, Peter was 0.7 of a second quicker than Marshall, and I'm sure Marshall's going to be watching that rear view mirror, which is the worst thing that he can do.
Problem. He's watching that mirror instead of watching the track in front of him, and under a bit of pressure.
You can see how Peter trying to get. Whoa, that's Andrew. He saw a lot of counter steer there going into turn number 1, but he did manage to just compose himself, and the car didn't turn around. But that could have been absolutely a disaster with Amal Jacques just about 5 seconds now behind Andrew. And that battle between Peter and Marshall still very much there. And then we do have Janneman in 5th place, Reeve in 6th, Colin in 7th place, Johan in 8th, Dane 9th, Brandon DeSantos in 10th, Terry in 11th, then Tabasco Troy in 12th, Stefan in 13th place, Jared in 14th, and it looks like we've lost Sarge.
Yeah, unfortunately we have lost our international racer. Did you say he was in Singapore?
No, that's Ryan. That's Ryan who races with us on a Sunday.
Okay,
Sarge and Ryan are different Ryans.
Okay. So we see now Peter Brandt back on the tail of Marshall.
I see Marshall going a little bit defensive there. He just got himself in the middle of the track there, going through towards turn number 8. But now Peter will have an opportunity here through the Jackie Ick chicane, or a little look there to the inside. See Marshall already changing the nose of their car, showing that he's going to be closing that inside line. But this is where Peter can now get that power on, and I'm starting to see those water droplets coming.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say that, Dylan, and this is where the track starts getting a little bit greasy as the race line gets slightly damp, and the guys on the slicks will be feeling that.
But I must say that rain is coming very early, because the rain should come halfway, because there are only 2 weather slots. But that means there's a variable of about 7 minutes either side. So do you go in now, or do you wait till it gets wetter?
The way those drops are coming down, that doesn't look like a light rain. But the guys haven't put the windscreen wipers on, and we're not seeing any spray. So it's still very very early, I would say. I would go for another 2 laps and then hit the pits. So a good battle here between Marshall and so it's still very, as they go through this fast right-hander into the left and then into this 90-degree sort of hairpin down the back straight towards the final S's, and Marshall is keeping his cool and calm, and to keep and then we have somebody in the pits.
So that is Maljak. He's decided, he's gonna say, I'm not fighting this rain any longer. He's decided to go and put the wet tires on. I just hope that he does get the tires on, followed by Yanaman. He too deciding, no, now is the time for the wets.
I just want to see the horn dog up front, if he's having any issues, if he's struggling. Perhaps we can maybe get her on board. And his time the last lap was a 140.8. So still doing relatively quick times.
Okay, we're starting to see more and more of the guys are starting to come in. So that's Dane has come in, as well as Brandon.
There's still a bit of a shadow on the track. Whoa, and I don't know if that's a bit of a glitch or if he's going wide there.
Oh, there we go.
Now you can see the rain appearing on the windscreen of his car. And I wonder if he's going to make a pit entrance at the end of this lap. Nope, he decides to stay out and go for another lap. So he's feeling quite confident that the track is not wet enough, and I just want to see his time, Dylan, as he comes over the line here. A 142.2, so he was a second slower that lap.
You can see how he's batting to get that car turned in. I think he might have made a bit of a mistake here, and I'm presuming that Marshall, as well as Peter and Reeve, will go into the pits. Oh no, Marshall's crossed the line, so they're still going, and so has Reeve.
So interesting. I think he's going to try to brave it one more lap, but it might be a bit costly. Let's see. A good indication would just see where Jock, what sort of times Jock is doing. His last lap was a 153, so that's probably his exit lap from the pits.
And I see Johan has now gone into the pits, but it's all depending on what Andrew Horn is able to do with this lap. He's got to keep it on the track. Remember, he's still on the slick tires.
And the rain's starting to come down now. You can see very visible. But he's actually quite close to the end of this lap, so perhaps he's timed it just right.
You can definitely see now that is proper rain.
And there we see he comes into the pits. So a smart move there. And I think he has timed that well. But let's have a look where Jock is.
Well, cameraman Tim was a bit confused there.
He's coming through. He's quite far behind at the moment. 48 seconds behind.
So there, Marshall's now gone into first place. So it looks like Marshall is going to go for another lap, as well as Peter Brunt, because Peter Brunt is right behind the back of Marshall. You can see half a second there. And Andrew now having gone into the pits. We know that he's going to go for the wets now, but I do think that these conditions have to be extremely tricky. There's Colin now into the pits.
You see that Marshall's last lap was a 143.9, followed by Peter Brandt also a 143.8.
I do think that both of these two drivers may have got this a little bit wrong.
But I was just looking at Maljock. I think he had a bit of an off because his time last lap was a 2 minutes 13. That time he did a 147. So
And
I
Jacques,
think he made a mistake somewhere.
You can see he's also just gone wide there into turn number 1, but he's now
I think that's Jared in the background. He's spinning around.
So we've got Stefan. He's now gone into the pits. We can see that I just saw the glimpse of that pit indicator. So this is now for a Marshall to go into the pits. There he goes, and that will be Peter Brunt behind him.
So you can really see now that the track is proper wet with this
Whoa!
And I think that was
that's Terry in front of him. Yep.
Terry doing a bit of drifting there in the rain, and he's gone totally wide there. So what if Terry's gone into the pits yet? He seems to be really battling.
So I think Terry might have just allowed his teammate to go past.
So it's a battle in the pits at the moment with Peter Brunt, Marshall, and Reeve.
And
but
here comes
our leader,
but if you look there, Peter Brunt is now out of the pits. So it is Peter Brunt who's actually leading this race. There he is there. Ooh, a little cross of the pit exit. So I think the damage that we're seeing on Andrew's car, he might have had him an off there, because you can see 5 seconds behind Peter Brunt is Andrew Horn.
That time, his last lap was a 2 minute 34. So I think he just got caught out either by a slow driver in front of him, or by the rain.
So I see that just looking up on the Facebook to see who's watching. We've got Stephen. He's saying, "How's it, boys?" Stephen, how are you doing? It's Stephen Smith. We thought you would have been racing this evening, but glad that you've joined us. Glad that you're watching, and I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing.
With 18 minutes left on the clock, this is going to be interesting final, because everybody's pretty much level now with
those pits,
the rain, coming down and making things a lot more interesting.
But look at that. That gap of 5 seconds is now just under 4 seconds. So Andrew Horn is on the charge, and I'm sure he's going to be wanting to close up that gap. You can see there is still just a little bit of a dry line on the track still, but I'm sure in the next couple of minutes that dry line will be gone, and the pooling will start happening. Specifically through the chicane areas. That is why, because Peter Brunt hadn't pitted. So that is interesting. We can see him now going into the pit. So he was leading just for a moment.
No, he did go to the pits, remember? But I think he must have got his pit strategy incorrect. because they were all in the pits at one stage, and I suspect that
right.
they put the wrong tyres on. So that is most unfortunate.
So I'm just looking here, and I did mark Peter Brunt as having pitted.
So yeah, that is most unfortunate because he was doing so well.
So that actually explains how Peter got ahead of Marshall in the pits, because they did enter just about the same time. And if they were both just going to be putting on tyres, they should have been exiting at just about the same rate as well.
But I can't understand, because he was pretty quick around the track. I mean, he wasn't slipping and sliding going off. But it does explain why the Horn Dog managed to close that gap so quickly. He did pretty
I think we've
well
just lost the Horn Dog,
car.
because now we've got the Horn Dog in screen, but it's showing him in the pits, and we're down to 13 drivers, so we've lost Andrew Horn.
Oh dear. So that means that Muljak is now in the lead, followed closely by Marshall. So this is going to be an interesting battle. And if the Horn Dog can hear me, I'm so sorry, man. That is most unfortunate.
The fact that we were able to fill up a lobby of 16 drivers and lose drivers through the race is absolutely soul destroying, not only for us as the commentating team, but also for the drivers.
No, absolutely. So as Muljak starts his 14th lap, he's going to have Marshall right behind him with just a 1.4 second lead at the moment. And we see him just gingerly going around that corner, the first corner, and that is a very tricky one in the wet.
Well, we do have a nice little battle happening down here. That is showing that it is Troy in. Well, he was in third place, but that car is definitely not turning. So I don't think that Troy's been able to get some wet tyres onto that car either.
Yeah, and look at his last lap at 2 minutes 7. So he also must have had a problem in the pits. And he seems to be really battling to get that car around. You can actually see, and he's gone onto the grass there.
So I do see that Johan now still in 5th place, is trying to close down on Colin. We saw Johan going off into turn number 1. Looked like that rear locked up, and that just on the grass, that's not where you want to be braking, and he did manage to somehow slow that car down. And you can see very, very gingerly through the first of the 3 chicanes on this track, and you can start seeing that the water's starting to build up in some areas.
Yeah, I'll tell you, especially this section, there's some quite a few puddles that if you don't avoid, will aquaplane straight off the track. And I think we're going to see the next couple of minutes, we're going to see a couple of cars hitting those puddles. But here up front, we see Marshall's now close the gap slightly on Muljak.
Yeah, that's 1 second between Marshall and Jacques, and now it's going to be up to see whether Marshall is able to start closing down on we know him as the TTR driver, but we know that Jacques has changed his team name for the series. And I can't quite find it, because it was something that was pretty unusual for Jacques himself.
So that's Colin and
Team Rockstar, that it is. Team Rockstar.
So on that last lap, Colin was the quickest with a 150.6. So he's now, sorry, Brandon. My apologies, Brandon was a 150.4. And that's, just want to remind the viewers out there that he's still on a controller, so that is a pretty quick time. So I wonder if he'll have be able to. Well, the car's not looking pretty good, and as I say that, bit of commentators curse, and he goes off and unfortunately hits the barrier.
Well, I think he just managed to keep it off, and remember we did see him go off there early on in this race, saying that he might have touched that inside curb. But now we've got Colin trying to chase down the other of the Sim Stuff Racing drivers. That is Janneman in the third place, Colin in fourth. So a nice little a battle here for the final spot on the podium, and this will still need to play out. Still can't choose which of these drivers will get there. Colin looked like a little bit of a lock up there as he went into the last phase of that chicane through turn number 10. And you can still see how wet these conditions are. Braking markers on the track have now been completely covered up by the water. You can see, turn the car in, wait for that grip, and once the grip comes, then accelerate through.
And it doesn't look like it's that easy to follow a car in the wet either. Plenty of spray coming up and blocking your view. But at least these guys have windscreen wipers. I can't imagine what it must be like for Formula 1 drivers or open wheel drivers in the rain.
So that is now Marshall trying to close down on our race leader Maljark, and can just about see the car in front, and all you are seeing is just spray. So you've got to be quite creative in terms of your braking markers, and you can see Marshall now looking for that opportunity, trying to find a gap and gauge where he can start closing up the gap on Jacques in front of him.
Yeah, much closer than he was in the previous lap now. Half a second between these two drivers as they start lap number
17, yeah.
Sorry. So with 10 minutes left on the clock, this is turning out to be a fierce battle between these two drivers, with Marshall trying his best just to close that gap. And you see through this first section, through this sector, Mal seems to have the upper hand, and I almost think it's because Marshall's is battling to see his turning points, and perhaps it's just throwing him off a bit. But you'll see through the tighter sections that he manages to close up on Jacques again. You see that gap will slowly come down again.
So Marshall taking a lot of that inside curb, and a lot of the guys you can see is staying middle of the track, and that's because just on that outside there's a little puddle of water that starts pooling, and if you do find yourself trying to turn off that pool, unfortunately the car does not react and you end up going straight as Marshall just gets a little bit too much rotation coming through the curb and that little dip on the inside there, and just managing to catch it coming off the throttle and allowing the car to rotate. Oof, on the grass there, that's dangerous on the brakes. So this is Janneman, who has Colin just in front of him. Remember, these guys are fighting for the last spot of the podium, and the last time we checked here, it was Janneman who was in third place. So Colin has been able to get in front of him, and now it's up to Janneman to start closing him down to see whether he is able to take their place back.
So that's actually Jared, our new driver, who's been lapped and seems to have found his rhythm and trying to unlap himself, but not doing old Foot Fiery any favours here, that's for sure. I almost would say to Foot Fiery, just let him pass and let him go and attack, see if you can maybe apply pressure to Colin. But as I said, that
can you just jump down there to 5th place for us, please? Because I see that Johanna's got Peter Brunt on his bumper there. You can see half a second between those two. So there they are now coming into picture. So Peter Brunt right up behind Johan. He's going to have a windscreen full of spray. And now this is going to be another test to see if Johan is able to keep Peter Brunt in front of him, or behind him I should say, using that spray to his advantage. With 7 minutes left, we are going to have 3.5, maybe 4 laps left of this race. And I see it looks like Jared is moving to the inside there of Johanneman, going down towards the second of the chicanes. Or Colin getting a little bit untidy there.
So Johanneman has let Jared go past.
Oh, and he loses the rear. So that means Johan is now up into 4th, with Peter Brunt into 5th, and there's Johanneman now dropping down to 6th.
So Peter Brunt now.
No, there's Jared in the background, so I think Jared might have made a mistake. Now Peter Brunt will try go around the outside, but he's going to be on the curbs. There's not going to be much grip out there.
But he's a man on the charge at the moment, and he's definitely made up for their mistake in the pits. As we remind the viewers of earlier, he had to go to the pits because on his first attempt, I think there was the problem with the changing of the tyres, and he came out on the wrong tyres. But now he seems to be up to speed and now challenging for 4th position. And Johan's not making it very easy for him.
You see a little kick of the rear there for Johan as he got that power out coming out of turn number 1. And that would have just slowed him down ever so slightly. You can see that rear really stepping out. And Peter Brunt was probably going to try and force an overtake here, going into the chicane, and just get a late entry, get the power on. You can see that little stream of water running out of across the track. So that's not a safe place for water to be, specifically through that turn number 4, because you are trying to go and carry as much speed through there as possible. You can see how that car is just flicking from one side to the next, and that's because the cars do react to the puddles that are on the track. So Marshall still trying to close down Maljacques, but it is Maljacques who's now out in front as the leader with 4.5 minutes left to go, and that is the distance between 1st and 2nd place, and the 2 leaders now coming up to lap a back marker. Johan getting very defensive going into turn number 8, or might have been a little touch there. They're going to be side by side here through turn number 9. Oh, Peter Brunt just losing the rear, getting that power on. I think he might have just touched the
grass. I think he touched the grass, and then it's just pulled the car towards the wall. And that battle is now over. I'm not sure if you'll be able to recover from that. You might have a bit of damage. And that's just allowed Johan a little breather. He's coming up behind a back marker. I'm not too sure that is. I think it's...
I think that's Stefan.
Stefan, are you? And I'm just hoping that Stefan will see these guys and get out the way.
Johan takes a tighter line. They're going to be side by side.
Whoa! A bit wide there for Johan. He's lost a bit of momentum, and that's allowed for Peter Brunt to go. And he goes a bit sideways,
which hasn't allowed Peter to go around the outside through turn number 4. So that is now Johan down into 5th place, and Peter now up into 4th.
But he was very, very lucky not to lose it there completely. He managed to control that car and get it back onto the road again. But now Peter Brunt's up into 4th position, and he's got Colin in front of him. And on that last lap, Colin did a 2 minutes, 1 second, so a full 6 seconds quicker, almost 7 seconds quicker than Colin the last lap. So Colin's struggling in the wets at the moment.
So just jump to Colin for us quickly.
That is Colin right ahead of them.
So apologies, we thought that was Stefan, but it is not. That is Colin. That is the third place driver who goes a little bit wide, yes. And now this here is the battle for third place. It is Colin, Peter Brunt and Johan. And they are going to be approaching as side by side is Marshall and Jacques. Through turn number 4, Jacques on the outside. That is Marshall on the inside. They're going to be side by side as they go into the first of the 2 chicanes. Will Jacques hold that line? They're going to be side by side through. Jacques decides to let Marshall through. I think that he realized that Marshall was on the faster approach onto that apex.
So it's all happening at the end of the race here. All the guys swapping positions. So a good battle there by Marshall and Jacques. And still going on here with Peter Brunt.
Johan having a look to the inside there, and he manages to get that car to stick there. So he's now moved himself back up into 4th place. But now Peter Brunt is now coming back. You can see they're just about side by side. I hope they don't touch. Coming into the chicane.
And they're coming to this first chicane.
Just watch the water on the outside. So Johan just managing to keep that going in a straight line. So it looks like he has been able to just open just a little bit of a gap now. And now the battle for the leaders. We are now approaching the last lap. 45 seconds left on the clock. This is the battle for first and second place.
So I wonder if we're going to see a late dive here or some sort of move here by Jacques. He's now able to apply the pressure, whereas for the last couple of laps we've seen Marshall applying all the pressure and doing all the hard work.
So
as they come through this fast right-hander, you've got to be very tricky it's very tricky, and you have to be very subtle on the throttle. And this is where Marshall managed to get past Jacques on the previous lap.
You can hear the guys are using those gears to try and help this car slow down. Let's watch the water on that. Yeah, I was just about to say, Jacques is just drifting out to no man's land there.
I don't know which battle to watch here, Dylan. They're both so close.
Well, there's a battle for first and second, or the battle for third place, and that's got 3 drivers in. So, yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And I must say the discipline of the drivers has been really good, as you can see how that car just twitching left and right as Johan comes off the curb, and we saw Brandon losing the car there twice. That inside curb onto turn number 4 is absolutely crazy. But it does look like Johan going to the inside.
Does he make it? Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
He goes through to third position.
An absolutely a cracker of a move there by Johan. And now Peter Brunt going around the outside of Colin. So I wonder whether Colin has got some issues there, possibly running out of fuel. And that is the race leader, that is Marshall, coming across the line. He will take the win. I would never have predicted that. Let's just jump down to the battle for third. So there's third, fourth and fifth place. Colin was in the third place for the majority of the race. And between Johan and Peter Brunt, an absolutely fantastic performance here. These guys have been fighting for the entire race, and they managed to get themselves ahead of Colin. You can see Colin now starting to drop down a little bit. Looking at the lap times, and I must say there wasn't much in the lap times there between those drivers. Brandon DeSantos, he's a little bit further down, so Brandon is actually in 6th place with Reeve in 7th, Dave 8th, and Janneman.
There goes Johan over the line in 3rd position. So good finish there by him. Really good finish by him, and followed by Peter Brunt. Sorry, Dylan. And Brandon has managed to keep it on the track for a good, strong finish in 6th position. I think that's pretty well done considering all the offs he's had. If you can actually look at that car, it's not in good shape.
No,
It looks like a Foxy at the moment.
Yeah, definitely that Porsche has seen better days, but I think that Brandon can be very happy with that 6th place. Reeve, he's also been pretty quiet this race, but now getting himself a 7th position, I'm sure he's happy with that. With after all the disconnection that he's had, he did get his ISP to open up those ports, and here he is. And there's Janneman on the side of the track. I think he's run out of fuel.
Like he looks like he may have run out of fuel, Dylan. That's most unfortunate. Well, that was a quite exciting race, Dylan, and I'm glad I got to commentate on that one.
Yeah, lots of action happening all throughout the grid there. Really awesome to see, and I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what happens in the Alpha tier.
Absolutely. And talking about the Alpha tier, Dylan, I'm going to make my way through to that lobby. Thanks so much for having me this evening, and good luck.
No, thank you very much.
For the next session.
We'll definitely.
Cheers, viewers.
So guys, I'm going to be following Ashley, just coming through into the Alpha lobby. So we are just going to get our podium sitters here into the chat. So you can see I've just taken the approval there. So I'll wait for the guys to join me in the chat party. We'll just keep our eye on what's happening in the Alpha tier lobby. We are seeing that they are starting to just filter in, getting those thumbs up ready to go. We're just waiting for Johan to join us. So guys, we're just waiting for everyone to be in here, and obviously as I wanted to just jump across, for some reason it wasn't picking up the imagery there, so we're just doing a quick adaptation and we'll get everybody in there now. All right, guys, let's start off with a third place. An absolute crack of a race there for you, Johan. Between yourself and Peter Brunt and then Colin, an absolutely crack of a race there for you. And a third place.
Yeah, that was hectic.
So I'm assuming hectic, but in a good way?
It was, good fun.
Fantastic. Sorry, I thought you would be a little bit more excited than that, Johan. So let's go to you, Amal Jacques. Unfortunately, we did lose Andrew Horn. Andrew Horn was out in front. It looked like he made a bit of a mistake. And when the first of the pits happened, Peter Brunt was ahead leading. And then all of a sudden, you found yourself being chased down by the Flum.
Yeah, I think I pitted a little bit too early, but I was thinking, let me pit and see if I can't maybe make up some positions again, and I was maybe taking it a little bit too easy in the wet, and then Marshall was behind me, and I must say some good driving between me and Marshall, not even touching each other through the chicanes. I think some of the guys can learn from that. But yeah, I must say Marshall, lekker man, really, that was now lekker driving.
And then, Marshall, we saw that you got that amazing run coming out of turn number 4 towards the chicane. Put yourself on the outside, and you almost just forced Jacques to let you through.
Yeah. I had to make up for last week's race, though, because I made a bad strategy call, and it cost me the race. So I just wanted to bag some good points in this one. But yeah, I always enjoy racing with Jacques. When we close to each other, I know me and him will always have a good race. So thank you, Jacques, for the space. And yeah, it was good racing between me and him, and it always is. And the wet made it a bit tricky. You had to fight the steering wheel all the way through those corners, especially when it started to make the puddles and stuff. I almost lost it a few times out of the chicanes, but luckily I could hold it in line and just keep it on the track.
No, look, it was absolutely fantastic racing, so thank you very much. And Andrew, unfortunately, a disconnection for you, and not really what we wanted to have seen.
Oh, thanks, Dor. Yeah, I came up on a back marker who decided to move back across from right to left as I was next to him, and that was the end of my race. The damage was fairly severe, and I just thought, you know what, it's gone. So, yeah. Ready for some commentary with the Alpha Lobby.
100%. So, guys, thank you very much. As we transition over to the Alpha tier, I do believe that they are ready in the background there. I just need to get my broadcasting right, and we can definitely go racing there. So, guys, thank you very much. Well done, and really looking forward to seeing what happens in the Alpha tier.
Yeah, well done, everybody.
Well done, guys. Cheers.
Okay, Marshall. Andrew, Dylan. Bye.
Ciao.
So, to the guys in the Alpha tier, we are ready to go.
This should be a mighty interesting race.
We are not seeing Tyler Scott as our director here. So Andrew, just need to ask you, is your PlayStation still on?
Yes, it is.
So then maybe what we are going to need to do is just invite you in here and then let you be the race director. Oh wait, yeah, I see Tyler's now joined us.
There's a Tyler.
Okay, now see I am the broadcaster, so we can just invite Tyler in.
How's it, guys?
How's it, Tyler?
I've just received the invite.
Okay, Tyler is here, guys. He's just joined us in the Discord, so he's just accepting there is there. We can just send it off and we can go racing.
Okay, right. Let's go.
Rock and roll, guys. Good luck. Keep it clean.
Stay dry.
Okay, so Andrew, let me just get up the screen that you'll be able to see.
Awesome, thanks, Tom.
And I must say, just stumbling on some technology definitely does make your life quite interesting. When we are able to get you sitting on the other side of Johannesburg, yet you can see exactly what I'm seeing at the same time.
That is very, very cool. I see there, watch stream. Check that out. That is very cool. I think the best piece of technology you could get your hands on right now is another hand.
Hey, yes, but you're right. You're right. So the technology is simple enough that I am able to do it all with one hand.
Hey, that's. I suppose that's a testament to where we are in the world at the moment.
Not only that, but the technology that I do make use of is absolutely free. Can you believe it?
That's the coolest thing ever. That really is.
So I must say, I did choose the collared shirt due to some meetings this afternoon, and I must say my little boys' room outside here, it definitely is starting to get a little bit warmer, so I have to go roll these sleeves up. And man, oh man, what a cracker of an end of a race there in that Bravo tier. The top 5 battling it out all the way to the end, and I'm hoping that we see that continue here. In screen we do see Marius, so yes, Marius is still having issues with his wheel, but he has done some practice. It didn't disconnect, and he jumped in the car a little bit earlier before we went live, and the thing did disconnect, so he's been doing a lot of troubleshooting, rebuilt his database on his PlayStation, and all I can say, let's just hope that he's able to stick around and finish this race.
I think he's had such a rough couple of weeks. It would be nice to see him get a result here. And I think Marius is just such a great competitor on this game, and seems to be quick in whatever he touches. So I think to see him here in these changing conditions will be quite interesting. So I really hope that steering wheel holds out.
And we definitely have, Marius definitely has a reputation, because some of the guys were saying, are we going to see some Marius slides coming through here in the Bravo tier? So people are definitely waiting to see what happens. And this is the reason why we are so glad that Marius is here. I'm just going to bring up the current standings of this championship here in the Alpha tier. And what you're seeing is first and second after 3 rounds are currently tied on 120 points.
Wow.
We then have Craig in third place, 4 points behind the leaders, with Marius 10 points behind the leaders. Not only that, Ashley, who's in 5th, he's 15 points behind the leaders. So we still have 5 drivers that can take this championship. We have
we saw a lot of racing.
100%. This is round number 4, so we still have 4 races left, so we'll be halfway at the end of this race. So man, oh man, definitely want to be seeing these guys continue racing.
Absolutely. I think these GT3 cars are going to present a bit more of a challenge than the GT4 cars in the wet. That Cayman's quite nicely balanced, and I think these might be a little bit more of a handful.
well, so it basically goes both sides, right? Because what I feel is that these cars, they have the downforce, so it is pushing you onto the ground, so you're getting a lot more contact, even though your speed is higher.
Sure, but as we know, these GT3 cars, they don't love steering lock and a throttle input, or brakes and a steering input. So, I think if people are getting a bit overzealous or in a battle, you might see a couple of little errors there.
So just jumping down the order to see who's racing with us this evening. So far we've got Connor who goes fastest. No, Jake's now goes fastest. With Marius in third place. That's Ashley, then Ross, Gavin, Craig, Dirkie, Vaughan Hills. We've just seen Dirkie go through. Then Robert, Brandon Hills, Rudy, and then Pete.
Yeah, I think I haven't done enough laps in one of these to comment, but certainly with the GT4, you found your second lap was a bit better. The tyres had a bit more of a chance to come in, so it'll be interesting to see what they do as the session progresses. But I think this is going to be a tight one up front there for sure.
Yeah, so we can already see the first 7 drivers separated by a second. The guys can't be as aggressive on the curbs in the GT3s as the guys in the GT4s can be. And just me practicing and playing around with some of the cars is I learned very quickly you cannot attack the curbs in these GT3s.
I think that's a trait of the circuit as well. Like some of these curbs on this place are vicious. And I think across any platform that you race on, the Zolder curbs are quite infamous. And certainly as they get wetter, they get worse.
So just in terms of some overtaking opportunities, we did see Johan sticking it on the inside through turn number 3. And honestly, I would not have thought that was an overtaking position. We know the rundown into the first chicane that's coming out of turn number 4 allows you to get on the inside. And we saw Marshall taking the outside line, yet still being able to beat Jacques. And I think that Jacques realized that if he tried to turn in, that would have been the two of them out. Just in terms of you having a race on this track, is there any place where you could see that we could possibly use as an overtaking opportunity?
I think turn 3 is it's such a wide section of track. I think absolutely you can overtake there, but you've got to have the respect of your competitor not to sort of shut the door on you or drift wide and run you onto the grass. I think that's key in both those situations. Certainly those chicanes are great because they're hard braking areas, and the hairpin turn 8 Boulder Spielbocht or something like that. It's got a cool name.
I'm glad you tried to give that a go. I've looked at that for the last half an hour. I'm like, I don't even know how I even start that.
I had a go, but it's well above my pay grade. But there's also a beautiful sort of outbraking maneuver sort of area.
And just coming out of the second chicane, those 2 right-handers, is if you get your line just right, you can basically full tap it through both those right-handers, follow your opponent up over the hill, and as you head towards that turn number 8, run around the outside, which puts you on the inside for that hairpin. As we see Ashley going a lock-up of the rears, is I have found myself overtaking some guys there. People don't expect it, so it is such a nice feeling just to go and slot yourself on the inside there.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought up that hill because I think slightly offline over that crest, once it starts raining, it becomes a bit more tricky and certainly slippery, so that the guys are going to have to watch that as well.
You can just see that little dip there in that chicane. What has been noted is that if you do try and turn in too late, that little dip just catches the rear and spins you around. So you've actually got to try and be as tight as possible going through that chicane section. And I see that we've already got Pete, Robert and Rudy in the pit. I'm not sure whether they're going to be able to get another go, as Brandon Hills are not the fastest hills on the planet according to the current timesheets there. That he got that a little bit wrong. So that in shot is Vaughan. So apologies, Brandon. You are the fastest heels on the planet so far.
I was about to say.
But Vaughan did prove that at the karting. So I am going with the previous experience that I've seen the 2 brothers together. And Rudy in 10th place, so he won't be improving on his time, nor will Rudy, as I say, Brandon. So Brandon has gone out into the pits, so he might not be able to get a lap in just yet. Remember, a 1:32 with just on 1:20, 1 minute 20 seconds left. I don't think he will be able to get around in time.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Unusual to see Sly Pete so far down. Pete's normally quite dedicated to this, so I'm a bit surprised by that one.
Yeah, so just looking at that time, I don't think he's got a clear run because that's 10 seconds off the pace, and it's definitely not a Pete's capabilities there. So I think it might have just been just the lack of getting a clear lap in. But looking at those times, Jake's 1:32.5, Ashley 0.06, Connor 0.1, Gavin 0.3, Marius 0.3, then Craig 0.5, Dirkie 0.6. So definitely that top 7. That looks like Marius in the background there. That wheel didn't allow him to turn, so I hope that's not his wheel that's disconnected there now. That would be absolutely devastating.
Let's hope he just took a bit too much curb, and that's all it comes down to.
Did you see that suspension working as Dirkie hit the second phase of that first chicane?
I did. I must say, these cars are quite mighty around this track, and I think to get them set up just right to ride the bumps, because that a lot of these corners have got some horrible ripples in the middle, particularly turn 1, 2, 3. There's some serious bumps there that they hopefully they've all got them sorted out.
What I also found is that as the race continues in these Porsches, the front end gets looser and looser and looser. So you start getting that under steer feeling. Mm-hmm. Then you go and you add the wet to that, and oh man, it does become a whole new challenge on its own.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that's down to a bit of fuel disappearing from the front and the weight balance changing quite dramatically.
100%. Remember, the Porsches do have the engines in the back, and essentially are a VW. No, I'm joking, they're not.
If I offered you a VW Beetle or one of these in your garage, which would you prefer, Bill?
I think I would take this one, thank you. But I drive my own Boxer, thank you very much.
Yes, the Japanese one.
So
how long have they got left here?
So that's it. So 25 seconds left. So that is the end of it. So we will now be able to see the qualifying, and that is Jake's in first place, then Ashley, Connor, Gavin, Marius, Craig, Dirkie, Lendl, Ross, Robert, Rudy, Brandon, Vaughan, and then Pete.
Robert's also been having a really good run in these GT3 cars. He's been a bit higher up than that. Maybe he's also struggling a little bit to get a clean lap, or just to get the setup right for around this circuit.
I think it's also just in terms of the track time, and it takes a while to get used to how to set up. And I know that Robert has spent a lot of time with the Bravo tier, and he was promoted up to the Alpha tier. But remember, that jump from the Bravo to Alpha is quite a jump. But just looking at him currently sitting in 10th place, is that he is able to hold his own here, and that's very important.
I think the other thing that we've learned is, qualifying is one thing. 40 minutes of racing is quite another, especially with a bit of rain halfway through.
Listen, me and qualifying are not my friend. Other than the karting race we had, as I had about 8 laps practice and then hit the qualifying and still managed to put us 8th on the grid. So that is probably the best qualifying I've ever had. But other than that, qualifying is not my thing.
Yeah. Look, it depends on the type of racing you're doing. In a longer race, the pressure is less on qualifying. But if it's a short sprint, well, track position's king.
So just remember, guys, that we will be having a rolling start. The guys will do a formation lap, and the reason we do that, it just allows a little bit more momentum, and you don't generally have 4 guys wide going into turn number 1, which we've seen that the turn 1 incidents have definitely improved since we've moved to the rolling start.
Absolutely.
But Andrew, just from your point of view, I know that the standing start is all part of the racing, but the racing actually comes down to when you're racing on the track and not into turn number 1.
Yeah, I think there's also the fact that not everybody's got a clutch pedal on their rig, and I think there's an advantage to having one for sure. The guys that have got a program on a button, I don't know how effective it is, or if they haven't got one at all and they're trying to sort of jam it in and they get a drive through. It's eliminated a lot of that. Certainly, there are certain people that think they can win it in turn 1, and that can often ruin the race for quite a few people in one go. So yeah, I'll agree with you. I think it's, while your opportunity to make up places is not as good, you still, it's better. You're going to see more people finish, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And definitely from my previous racing experience, and look, I still really love the racing, but I found that I love bringing the show. Is a lot of my times is I would qualify further down the field, and there's lots of stories of me just following drivers, applying the pressure, then just moving myself further and further up the field, and that's kind of the style that I drive. Is I would rather lose a place or two than compromise the rest of my race, and that's what we're just trying to achieve.
Yeah, I've witnessed you do that on a couple of those longer Sunday races, when we did our Renault Megans and what other things did we race on a Sunday? Those RSO ones. You were very, very good at that, and certainly, it brings a lot of the consistency into it. If somebody's consistent and not making mistakes, the person they'll put pressure on if they are sort of susceptible to making mistakes, it'll pay off. Yep. Absolutely.
100%. Consistency is key. So
yep, absolutely.
Here we go as the guys start just moving out. They are waiting for Jakes to cross the start-finish line. So now everyone has passed the last corner. So Jakes will be waiting, giving them a countdown. And there we go. So we are now racing a Zolder in the Alpha tier. And it looks like Marius is trying to look to the inside there, trying to get ahead of Gavin, and he does manage to sneak through there. So Marius now up into 4th place, Gavin now down into 5th. Jakes is away with Ashley in 2nd, and Connor in 3rd position.
Fantastic. I think Marius has dropped that place again to Gavin. By the looks of it, I think he managed to hold him on the one side.
Yeah, so possibly Gavin might have gone around the outside into turn 1, which puts him on the inside for turn 2. And Marius would have probably just needed to heed that place. But now as they come towards the chicane, and this is where guys need to be very careful on those brakes. I can see carrying a lot of speed through there. And everyone seems to be safely through there. So that is absolutely fantastic to see.
Yeah, indeed. I think, we both, my point of...
a little out braking himself there. That's Lendl. You can see Lendl now dropping down. So on that approach into the second chicane, Lendl out braking himself, but now back into 9th place. So he is on the track. Lendl will now be looking to chase down Ross, our Scottish international.
It's nice to see Ross sort of in the midfield there having a go.
So Ross did come up to the live stream, and he did say podium, so that's his plan. Listen, we have seen Ross in the wet. For some reason, Ross is able to turn on the car when it is wet, and we have seen him win a couple of times in the wet, so I wouldn't discredit that podium from him.
Well, yeah, I think the conditions are playing into his hands, if that's the case. Maybe it's to do with where he lives, but he likes the wet, so... We got fingers crossed for Ross. I see Craig's picked up a penalty already, which is not great. Lap 3.
Ooh, a little bit wide there for Durkee. He managed to catch a bit of the dirt, but there he is. Ooh, moving to the inside of Ross. T. Durkee on the brakes a little bit sooner than would needed to be, realizing Ross will have the faster line as we see one of the Racing Boets lighting up the rears there, and that is Brandon. Now you can see down into 14th place. So Brandon did mention that he didn't have much practice, so he is doing just about a arrive and drive, but we know that Brandon does have the skill, and that's why they call him Brandon Skills. So I'm sure he'll just get into the groove. A little touch there between Gavin and
that could have been tears for people. Wow, that was.
It looked like Gavin was trying to go around the outside of Ashley, I think.
Yes. I think he just locked it up and managed to get the back light and spun on it. How he missed people there, I will never know.
We do see lots of pressure here from Craig now, trying to get himself ahead of Marius. So Craig will now look to the inside there, just a little show. But Connor in the third place. He's going to have the likes of Marius and Craig with Ross dropping down into seventh place, going wide into turn number 1.
Oh dear, Ross.
So Ross definitely making it very difficult on himself.
And you know, the usual sort of thinking it would be maybe grab an early pit stop after a bad move like that and a bad lap, sort of go and grab the pit stop, get it out the way, have one really bad run and then focus on the rest of the race. But with the rain coming, it's too early, definitely.
Yep, those soft wet tires will heat up, and I promise you they probably won't even last more than 3 laps, and that will be the end of those tires. They will be overheating, and the car is worse to drive on the wets on the dry than it is on the slicks in the wet.
For sure.
Yes,
absolutely.
I had to work that out so carefully in how I said that.
Not good after a long day. Not good. I think Craig is our first victim of a track limits penalty, and I just wonder if Durkee had to lift off there when he ran wide onto the dirt for a slowdown penalty rather than taking a time penalty.
Yep. Thank you, Tyler. So Tyler, our official cameraman and a director. So 1 second there for Craig so far. So 1 second you're still able to get away with. It's when you start making that pit entry mistake and you start adding the tens of seconds, that's where things get a little bit pear-shaped.
I think we saw it on Monday, wasn't it? With at that Dubai National Circuit where it was quite easy to pick up a penalty and you kind of went 1 second, 2 seconds, 18 seconds for crossing the line.
And unfortunately, Terry Wilford was one of those that did feel some of that pain. Ross trying to have a little look out through turn number 4, and he's got Lendl right behind him.
There's a train. 3 very competitive drivers in a train. This should be good.
Ross is not going to... I thought he might commit, but you can see that he did come out of the brakes, off the power and onto the brakes a little bit earlier, allowing Durkee to take that line through. And that's what I love, is that the guys know that if I continue on this path, is that there's going to be some tears, so rather get out of the move and look for another opportunity.
Oh, it's actually fantastic to see when people race like that. I think, if anybody wants a bit of a masterclass, that little bit of footage there is prime for that.
And I must also say big up to Lendl as well, because he would have seen that Ross was going. He got in behind Ross and realized, okay, but Durkee's probably going to take the line. Ross is probably going to brake earlier, so Lendl adjusted for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Andrew and Brogioni that put up this morning on Discord. It's all well and good to say, I was looking for my braking mark. I think everything changes when you've got traffic and people in front of you, and people behind you for that matter as well. You've got to adjust for all of that, and it might not be where you want to brake. Ross running wide again, but you've got to adjust, and you don't want to be crashing into people and taking them out.
So to the guys who are on the stream, just let us know what you're currently thinking, and if you haven't subscribed already, you do feel like doing it, just hit that button, and don't forget that little notification button if you are watching us on YouTube. If you are on Facebook, don't forget to give our page a like there and become a fan. Stephen. Yeah. Stephen Reddy. We seem to have not given him as much love here, but Stephen here as well as Johan VDV, they are both watching there on the Facebook, so we will just check in there a little bit more often. But now back to Dirkie, currently in... there's Ross picking up a little penalty for himself. You can see the little red tick over that number 7. And
he's been running wide consistently through turn 1. I think he's just trying to carry a little bit too much speed, and maybe as the fuel level's coming down, he's understeering a bit. But yes, I see the penalty there.
2 seconds there for Ross. I must just make this announcement to you, Andrew, is that thanks very much for joining me in the commentary box. And last week we did have, on Monday, Terry, I invited him to come and just to chat to him about his race, and he landed up commentating with me. And when I mentioned I was sending you my cheat sheets, his little comment has come up and saying crib notes. So he does feel like he was hard done by.
Shame, man. Well, we'll buy him a beer and he'll soon forget. I know how Terry works.
So what I'm going to do from now on, if I do send out some crib notes as he's put them, I will just CC him in the emails going forward.
Yeah, I think that's the best bet. It'll keep him quiet if nothing else. So you talk about the rolling start. There was somebody who was guilty of not listening to what was being said before the start of the Bravo race, because those lights came on and those lights went off, and Terry dropped that clutch and he was going to win the race.
Terry. So just looking at the current positions, and Jake's here, he's still ahead, and I don't know if you can see that on the screen, guys, but there are raindrops starting to form. But Jake's is ahead, 1.8 seconds ahead of Ashley, who's in second. Then it is Connor, Marius, Craig, Dirkie, Ross, Gavin, Pete, Vaughan Hills, who's now the fastest Hills on the planet. Then it is Rudy, Brandon, then Robert. So we have lost a driver.
I'm trying to see who we've lost. And unless I'm mistaken, I'm starting to see some raindrops fall as well, Dylan.
Those are definitely raindrops, so the track is going to start getting wetter. And we do know that Jacques did say that he pitted a little bit too soon. We know that in the Bravo tier, he was the first of the drivers to pit. And he did say that it did start catching him out later on, where Marshall was having a much better grip. So I'm sure that the guys would have been watching it, and they're going to have learned from that.
Looks like we've lost Lendl, Dylan.
Plus another driver.
Okay, so it's Lendl, definitely. Is it Theo? Theo, maybe? I'm not sure.
So we've lost Vaughan. It's Vaughan and Lendl.
Vaughan and Lendl.
Because I don't see Hills V.
There you go. That's exactly who it is. Yeah, you're right.
So Connor now starting to put some pressure on the back of Ashley. So Ashley starting to make a few mistakes. So you can see he was just about chasing Jake's lap for lap. And now nearly 3 seconds. And he's going to need to start watching his mirror, because Connor, the youngster from Yugi's Finest, he's going to start putting a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think we're also going to see who blinks first on the pit stops here, and who struggles most with the changing conditions.
Ashley losing the rear, actually.
No, Ashley.
So Ashley's now dropping down. Himself and Connor were side by side, and all of a sudden that rear let go. Not sure. Honestly, I don't think that there was contact there. Perhaps it was just a view that Ashley saw Connor on the inside, tried to change his line, and that just unsettled the rear. But that now promotes Marius up into third. But look at that. Craig and Dirkie having an almighty battle down in 4th and 5th place. But we still need the rain to start falling. The guys will start pitting, and out those wet tires will come. And all of a sudden, this race will change once again.
Yeah, let's hope everybody's got their pit strategies right, because any mistakes there could also cost them a couple of places with the sort of how close this field is. But I see Dirkie's obviously using his head a little bit and not trying too hard with Craig, because Craig got a penalty. So I suppose it's a long race still to go, but he doesn't have to try too hard. He just has to sort of be within a second of him at this point. Be interesting to see how it shakes out after the stops.
So here we go. Here comes the first of the stops. So that's Jakes. You can see he committed all the way to that pit entry. So he is going in. And surprisingly enough, Connor not taking that pit straight away. It's interesting to see Marius. So Marius decides not to pit. Craig, he will take his pit now.
I think I wouldn't want to leave it too much longer because this track seems to go from no standing water and bearable on a slick to absolutely undrivable quite quickly. Within a sort of a half a lap, 3/4 of a lap, it changes quite dramatically.
Well, so far we are looking at our race leader, and that is Connor. So he has got just about 3.5 seconds ahead of Marius, knowing that Gavin, he's now decided now's the time to pit.
And Craig as well. Rudy's in. There are a few of them. I just hope the guys that are now leading the race haven't left it too late, because they might lose more lap time than the other guys gain, if you know what I mean.
Yep, 100%. And that's definitely the question is, how much time are you willing to lose to try and gain positions versus rather getting the right tires on at the right time?
Absolutely.
And getting yourself back into that rhythm.
Yeah. And finding the rhythm as the track degenerates and your wets sort of hit the right optimum temperature and operating pressures and all of that sort of thing.
Okay, so that looked like Connor decided that he would go straight on.
Vaughan Hill says his power tripped.
No, that is crazy. So Connor's in. Rudy's still in the pits, so it looks like he might be getting some damage repaired. Marius, he's also in the pits, so here comes Pete.
Oh, Pete, I think is gambling here, but let's see.
So that's Pete coming out of turn number 10, so he'll be approaching the chicane. There's the pit entry, so he'll now go in, which means that Ross is now the new race leader, and I don't believe he's gone for the wets now, so he's gone out on the slicks. Ross.
And we've got some spray and standing water.
And we know that cats don't like the water, especially now. Ooh, look at how their car's just twitching.
Maybe Scottish cats get on better with water. I don't know.
We'll definitely have to ask him.
Absolutely. I think it'll be interesting to see what sort of lap time he puts in. It was a 36.5 last time around.
So just looking at that, he's got 28 seconds ahead of Jakes. So if he can keep up this current pace, not make too many mistakes, it might be close.
It's going to be very close. What is the stop here? About 24 seconds, something like that?
Well, it's 13 seconds to put on the tires itself, plus you're probably losing about 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out. So I'd say it's around about 33 to 35 seconds. So if my calculation's correct, he should be able to come out, do I say just in front of Durkee or right between himself and Craig?
I think it's going to be very interesting to see how he finishes this lap. That's going to be the key. So he's made it back, and it's not bent, so that's a good start. Ross, well done.
Yeah, so he definitely committed, went in as late as possible. Now we can start seeing that time closing in quite dramatically. Connor and Craig having an almighty battle there. You can see though they're just about side by side. If that, I was about to say that is pretty close between the two of them. So Ross is still in the pits. Jakes is now closing up on him. Can we just jump there to Jakes there, please, Tyler? So here comes Jakes across the start-finish line. Ross is technically in the pit, so that could still be in the pit exit. We can hear that he is moving. We heard the sound. So now it's going to be whether he is there. We saw him in the background there. So he's now on the pit exit. We're waiting for Durkee. Here comes Durkee. Oh, a little bit wide there for Durkee, and Ross should be in the inside of the picture, and there he is, and that will be a warning. You can see how Ross just cut across that pit exit, but that's it. Ross has now got himself into second place, so that gamble on a very wet track has served him well.
It has indeed. So he's 8 seconds behind Jake, so that stop seems a little bit longer than what you were saying. He was 29 seconds ahead when he came into the pits. Now he's 8 seconds behind. So that was closer to a 40-second stop. I wonder if he fixed some damage.
Ooh, you can see that he was very tentative on the brakes there. Was Craig with Connor, his teammate, right behind him. No, and that's Ross binning it. You must just be careful because here come the two Hughie's finest. So he'll have to just hold his line on the outside, which should allow Craig to move up on the inside. But now, will they touch? Yes, they just touched, but now over the hill. Craig is going to be on the inside here for turn number 8. Will Connor try and slot on the inside there and follow his teammate through? Ross is deep, and that's going to allow Connor to go through as well. So a little mistake loses Ross one position to Durkee, and then the two Yugi finest drivers, they will pounce on the cat, and they will take that 2 places away from Ross. So Ross, coming out of the pits in second place, finds himself down in 5th.
He did a great job on the pit stop, but yeah, I think adjusting to the wets, he battled a bit more there.
It is definitely because he would have still been on the slick tire, come out onto an absolute drenched track, and this is the view that we're getting out of Connor's car. So you can see that spray. So any sort of braking marker that you have on the track has now just been completely null and voided.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You have to adjust them quite dramatically for the wet as well. The other big thing with wet tires is getting the pressures right along with your temperatures. You know, if it's not in the right operating window, you're also not really playing ball, are you?
No, 100%. So what I found is that possibly also because of my setup, is I was running a bit of a harder setup in some of the practicing that I did. A little dive there by Connor. The two teammates, I'm sure they're going to have some words after that.
Oh, and again! We didn't do a proper job the first time, so we'll have another go. Yeah, no, that's rule number 1 that you don't do.
Never take out your teammates. So, Yugi's finest, I'm sure, are going to be having lots and lots of discussions, and I think that was Brandon Hills now retiring after it looked like he was stuck on the outside of the track there. Lots and lots of damage there for him.
Yeah, does look like it. But Ross is laughing.
Ross is
now.
now.
He can keep it together.
Ross is back in 3rd place after the Yugi's finest stumbled over themselves. They're coming through the chicane. Connor had an extremely late dive into on the inside of Craig, and that's spun him around. And then going through the second phase of that chicane, that looks like Craig's very, very slow there. There he is going into the pits.
Yeah, no, he had 2 good goes at doing some damage to that car, so I'm not surprised there's a pit stop involved with that. Oh yeah, that looks very second. I don't know about you, Dill, but I also find with running in the wet, moving the brake balance a little bit more to the rear helps as well with the braking, and it keeps the car a little more stable. Yeah,
without a doubt. And also what it does, it just releases the locking up of the front wheels, and you kind of get, it almost feels like the car just seats better on the brakes, as opposed to getting that the front just to wash out and have that little bit of a left and right kick. The other thing that I would do on here is just reduce that engine braking, because the last thing you want to do is have the rears locking up on you, which that's not going to help you.
No, because again, if you do it at the wrong time with the slightest bit of steering input, you really are going to have a big crash. Yeah, these guys I see are getting very brave with these curbs. In the GT4, the curbs were a big no-no. Those painted curbs were like an ice rink.
So we started off with 14 drivers. We are now down to 10 as Jakes, the race leader, runs wide into turn number 3, safely through turn number 4. But this is turning out to be a pretty straightforward race for him.
Don't you give him commentator's curse.
No, listen, Jakes and I have raced together for many years, and I'm quite confident to be able to bring it home.
I think so as well. Jake's is, it's awesome. Brandon Hills, he says he's on wet, but the car was undrivable, so he managed to crash it, and it was quite badly damaged, so he gave up.
Yeah, I did see that message saying that he can't drive this car, so that's very unfortunate. So unfortunately, both the Hills brothers will need to wait one more week to determine who's the fastest Hills on the planet here on a Thursday night. So another driver we're just watching, Gavin, is that we saw in the Formula Renault he had an absolute crack of a season in terms of the qualifying, but was just not able to convert some of those positions. We did see him qualifying quite higher up, but here we have him down in 5th place. It will be so interesting to see, because I know that Brandon, Lendl and Gavin, they seem to have the pace, but it's just converting that into those points. At the end, it looked like Marius was getting a little bit sideways there. Yep, I did manage to see that. You can hear Marius now rejoining the track.
Well, if he's rejoining the track, at least we know it's not a problem with his steering wheel. Well, maybe it is. It's just the wrong input in the steering wheel. But yes, at least his steering wheel hasn't disconnected.
Yeah, just as he came out of the corner, it looked like the rear just rotated a little bit too much, but he is going again. Marius currently in 7th place, and we just understand how important every single point is, considering we are now approaching halfway, and Marius 15 points behind the race leader, and Marius is in 4th position. Overall, that is, overall.
Yes. Oh, Gavin's off. What you're saying about converting from qualifying to a race is very valid. I mean, I can speak from experience. That Formula Renault, I could put a lap together, but to put a race together was a whole nother story. You know, there was, and I think with any of these cars, you know, perhaps the tin tops are a little bit more robust than the single seaters. But yes, you know, you've got to stay out of trouble. You've got to keep the car in one piece and bring it home.
I just saw a little kick of the rear there for Gavin, touching the first phase of the curb there. And in all the racing that I've done, is I always have a very patient approach. Rather just pick one driver and say, that's a driver I need to pass. Once I've passed him, we'll figure the next one. And try not look too many places up, because that's when you really start making a lot of those mistakes. And I must say, it was probably only in the last year or so where I was able to be diligent enough and get a lot more consistent, and rather do consistent lap times and force the errors, as opposed to just trying to be as fast as possible.
I think that's excellent advice. I also have to ask, I wonder how many people make the mistake of setting a car up that's great for a lap, but they don't think about it over 40 minutes. And, you know, while it's great for a lap, after 10 minutes, it's nowhere.
So I'm always about, when I set my car up, I always set it up for the middle of the race. And that means, so when I'm adding fuel, I know that the car is going to be heavier, but it's that middle section where I know that the car is always going to come back to me. It is easier to prepare for a lighter car than it is for the heavier car. But for me, that's my advice, is rather get your middle section and the middle phase well, so that you got the balance on both a heavy car and a light car. Whereas what I found is, if you set the car up for a light car, you are terribly inconvenienced, and the car just feels so bad when it's really heavy. So I like that balance feel in the middle.
I agree with you. I think it's really good advice, particularly with these Porsches that have the fuel tank at the front that gets lighter. I think that's really good advice.
So we're catching up with Sly Pete there. Sly Pete in 7th place, but he has Marius behind him. Going into the second of the chicanes, you can see that little dip, and that dip will be pooling up with water now. You can see Marius still riding that curb on the inside, and it doesn't quite sound like they're flat coming out of those two right-handers. Now over the hill,
No.
Marius will have enough speed for the inside. No, he doesn't, but that is that overtaking point that we were talking about. You can see just coming over that crest, your opponent in front of you doesn't necessarily see you coming, and then you just slot it on the inside there for that right-hander.
Pete's another great example of somebody that doesn't always qualify that well, but boy, can he put a race together. You know, he'll be way down, and suddenly in the results, there's Pete like right up to the top. And he's really good at that. They shouldn't call him Sly Pete, they call him Sneaky Pete.
Ah, Sly Sneaky. I suppose it kind of means the same thing there.
Yeah, I suppose. But he's doing a good job here in the wet as well.
And Marius still trying to find that opportunity. You can see the little inputs that Marius was making when he turned in. So he made that one movement in, but then a quick little adjustment. It'll come off of the power there through turn number 3. Now you'll wait for that car to rotate, and then on the power, Pete staying in the middle of the track. And that's probably one of the hardest cars to overtake, is a car in the middle of the track.
Yeah, no, Pete's doing exactly what he should be doing at this point. If he, I think at this point
you can see Pete not able to get that power down, so that's going to allow Marius to go over the crest, around the outside, setting up for the second of the chicanes.
That was a huge difference in speed. Pete really had to get out of it there.
Well, remember that he would have picked up that little puddle that would have pulled on the outside, so he would have had to come off the power completely. And with Marius on the accelerator and Pete off the accelerator, that's where you're going to get that speed differential.
Yeah, it's a bit. Yeah, as I say, though, he was off the throttle for a long time there.
So I definitely want to be a fly on the wall in the Yugi's finest change room, because you can see Connor in 4th place and Craig down in 8th.
And Craig's car still looking very sad as well. Shame. Obviously, he didn't have the damage repaired to do everything. But Connor's car is still looking damaged as well.
You can see 40 seconds off our race leader, and I'm starting to see Ross 4 seconds away from Dirkie, 7 minutes to go. But I do think that that might still be too much of an ask. I saw a flash of a car behind, but I do believe that would be a back marker, because the gap between Ross and Connor is just over 25 seconds or so.
Yeah,
but there's Dirkie, and 4 seconds. Look, we got 6 minutes left. So again, that's just on about 4 laps. And I'm sure Ross is going to keep his head down to try and see whether he can close up on Dirkie, but I think he'll just want to just bank the points.
Absolutely. I think he's had a bit of a roller coaster of a day already, and I think he'll be quite happy to bring home a podium. But it's worth keeping an eye on. I think he's closed in about half a second, maybe a little bit more already on Dirkie.
Yep.
Yeah. No. So he's trying. He is trying for sure. He's not giving up.
And the other battle that's going to happen is we've seen these two fight it out before, and that's Marius closing up on the back of Gavin. Gavin doing a 46.5 with Marius a 42.7, so that's where that gap closed up. You can see just about 3 seconds or so between Gavin and Marius, and I'm sure Gavin's going to start seeing those silverback colors in his rearview mirror and think, oh man, now I'm going to have to keep my head looking forward.
Yeah, he's got to get his head down and try and open the gap up, or he's got to get his head in defense mode and get ready to put the car where Marius can't get by.
So what I always like talking about is just defending that gap, is just like running wide like that is not going to help him, because you can see how that gap has just closed up quite dramatically. So 0.8 of a second Marius found there, but it's just do one lap and see, am I comfortable with this pace? What has the guy behind me done? If you see that he's closed up 8 hundredths of a second, to say, okay, that at that corner I need to just push a little bit more. Then once you keep that time the same, then at least you know that you don't have to give it all, but you can just monitor that gap between the driver in front of you or behind you.
I think it's also important even to break it down smaller than that. Focus on each braking point, each apex point, and not making a mistake. Take it corner by corner and make sure you keep everything tidy. That's the best you can do, I think, in this situation. That's the advice you're always given when you get into the big circuit racing is when you're under pressure, focus one corner, one apex at a time.
I think your advice is better than mine.
No, yours is good. It's good, but to focus in these conditions on a whole lap is tricky. I think you just got to get corner by corner. Keep it
look at that. So there's Marius right on the back of Gavin.
I think he ran a little wide there again.
So now Marius will be waiting and just sizing up Gavin to see where he can make that opportunity. Now we know that Gavin ran a little bit too deep here into turn number 2, and that was where Marius was able to make up a lot of time on him. But it does seem like Gavin has fixed that corner and just starting to pull away there from Marius, but he runs wide. No, Gavin. So again, Marius will be able to close up on the inside. You can hear Marius taking a much later entry, but I think Marius had to come off the power there as well, because that gap now to a second.
I think that turn number...
There's Gavin on the outside. That's off the track, so he hit that puddle, which means that Marius will be able to go around the outside. So Marius now up into 5th place and Gavin in 6th.
That wasn't quite the battle we were hoping for. But yeah, I think Marius made a mistake through turn 4, the Lucian Bianchi corner. And at that point I thought, oh, this is going to carry on a bit longer. Gavin made it easy for Marius there.
So there's our race winner. Oh, race winner, sure. Now imagine something happens. Careful. Oh, my goodness. Our race leader. Apologies. Starting to close up on, I believe that's Craig, the Yugi's finest driver.
Jakes is doing a fantastic job there. He really is. He hasn't put a foot wrong so far.
So the back markers are coming into play, Andrew. What do you think of that?
After my race, I don't think much of the back markers. Hopefully these guys have got their eyes open and paying attention, unlike some of the gentlemen in Bravo tier. But yes, let's see. I suppose we'll see how that plays out now.
And there's Ross right on the back of Durkee. They're going to have 2 laps to fight it out. And it's all now we're gonna figure out to see whether Ross wants that podium to be a 2nd place, or whether he's just happy to settle for a 3rd. But I can tell you, knowing these two, they're going to be both pushing to get the higher position.
Absolutely. I don't think Ross came here to finish 3rd.
To just allow a 3rd, you know what I mean?
I think he's also done a fantastic job to close the gap. So I'm sure he's he hasn't come this far to sit there and watch Durkee.
No, 100%. You just watch the rear blue Porsche in front of him just cross the line so easily. You can hear Ross still gearing down going through turn number 3, so he is trying to turn number 4, trying to get as much drive out of that corner as possible. You can see a lot more curb there for Ross. He's moved to the inside as Durkee just touches that little pool of water on the outside. So this is it. Ross has now decided that he wants to have a fight here. Carried a lot of carried a lot of speed there. Didn't quite get the car slowed down to take the straighter line through there. And that is my favorite corner on this track. The way that car just, even the way the feedback just pulls away from you as you go up over the crest, and then it comes back to you as you head down. And what an awesome time of day. Late afternoon, little bit of rain. It's the stuff that sunsets are made of.
It certainly is creating an awesome end for these two, that's for sure. I think Ross is just biding his time, hoping that Durkee's going to make a mistake here. Hopefully he doesn't run out of time.
And I'm looking at that battle between Marius and Gavin, and I see that they're also like 0.6 of a second behind him. So while Marius has got ahead, Gavin hasn't lost Marius at all. I just saw that the time penalties there between Ross and Durkee. So 2 seconds Ross has. So I don't think that Ross would be wanting to push to try and overtake Durkee. I don't think he'll be able to pull the 2 seconds ahead.
Not with a lap to go. Not unless Durkee makes a horrible mistake.
So there's the race leader currently on the final lap. That is Jake's. Ross still chasing the blue Quicksilver.
Hey, well, he made the call of podium, and it's...
Oh! Ross.
Curse before the words were out of my mouth.
So luckily for Ross, Connor is still a good 30 seconds or so down the field. So Ross is still very much safely in that podium place. Connor in fourth, but want to know what the team decision is going to be there. So there goes Jakes crossing the line as the winner. An absolute great drive there for Jakes.
Faultless, absolutely faultless drive. He led that flag to flag. There you go, Ross will be pleased with that.
So that is Ross's signature. Let's see if we can roll it over the line. So he finishes in third place, and here comes Connor.
Ross is like a 70s rock band. Destroy your equipment as soon as you're done with the show.
Gavin got past
there's
Marius,
Gavin ahead of Marius. You're so right. Well spotted there, Tyler.
Jeepers. I wonder if Marius made a mistake, because that looked... he looked a lot quicker than Gavin a little bit earlier. And he's driving in the middle of the road. He's not giving it up.
Oh, you can see the Gavin's rear that just stepped out a little bit. So he came off the power to catch the rear. And Marius not able to capitalize that because Gavin was in the middle of the track. He had to slow down just a little bit more. But now will he be able to get the exit as Marius tries to go to the inside?
No.
But I'm sure Marius, even though it is a 6th place for Marius, I'm sure that he's just happy that he was able to complete the race with all the challenges that he has had with his wheel. And that is the end of the race.
I'm sure Marius will, after a good battle like that, they'll both be smiling. I think Marius will be smiling even wider because his steering wheel didn't disconnect. Maybe he sprayed some hand sanitizer in the port or something. That fixed it.
Well, if it is alcohol based, that just might have worked. But we don't suggest that anybody go and do that, please.
Yeah, don't spray your PlayStation or any electrical appliance with alcohol based anything. So Jake's winning by 15 seconds. That's a healthy margin.
So we're just sending out the invites through to the guys on the Discord.
It'd be interesting to hear what they say about the tyres going off through that race, or how the conditions challenged them.
Yep, 100%. We're just going to get the invites to Jake, Durkee and Ross to come and join us up in the commentary box. I do need to just turn this off, otherwise we will have a strike against our name. And then I am able to stop sharing that.
Thanks, babes.
So We can hear
the Flying Scotsman tonight.
the guys
How's it going, man?
making some noise as they join us in the lobby. A very refreshing beverage there for Ross.
It's a gin and tonic. It's, yeah.
The drink of Scotsman.
It comes up the taps there. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we definitely have to come and visit you in Scotland. So, so let's start off with you, Ross. In the beginning, you once again go and say you're going to podium, and there you go. But hold on. An absolute cracker of a mistake, allowing Durkee to get past. Not only that, but the two Yugi's finest tangling each other and then allowing you to take those 2 places back.
Yeah. I certainly got lucky. I made up a load of places in the pits, so I pitted maybe 2 laps
later than everybody else, and I must say,
5 positions, which was great.
Myself and Andrew were really questioning that decision, that's for sure.
I was towards the end of the last lap before I pitted. I was, but no, it paid off. And I was out, I think, in second after the pits, but made a couple of mistakes, like early on, like in the wet, and yeah, like I think I was like hovering around like 4th, 5th. Got a bit lucky with the Yugi's guys tangling, and then was gradually catching Durkee towards the end, but I made a couple of silly mistakes, and yeah, that cost me, I think. So, no, well done, Jakes, well done, Durkee. I'm happy with third today.
We must say that Andrew did give you a bit of a commentator's curse there as he went to you to say Ross is doing through the chicane, bang.
Intentionally.
Ross, you lost your rear there. And then Durkee.
Thank you.
That's a great pleasure.
Then Durkee, a second place to you, but being hounded by the Wet Cats for the majority of the race, but a really great result there for you.
Yeah, I'm very happy with my result because I couldn't get my qualifying place together, so I started at
Dirk, can I just interrupt? Durkee, are you wearing any clothes?
No. It's hot.
That's a bit forward, Ross. Family show, remember.
But anyway, so I got a bit lucky there. When Ross ran up, but it was hard work for me because I was behind Greg for a long time, and I just kept it calm, and hope somebody will make a mistake because it's not easy to pass here. And so the mistakes happened in front of me, and I stayed out a lap longer for pits, and that helped a lot.
Yeah.
I think I gained a lot of places in the pits. So I think that was a very good move. I think Marius came with me, but unfortunately his steering wheel disconnected as we went into the pits, and he bumped into the wall. So
shit!
Oh wow, we didn't see that.
Yeah, so we didn't see that at all.
He hit the wall in the pits. So I was right behind him. So we gained a lot of places, staying out that extra lap. From there on, I saw Ross coming in front of me. I was surprised. I didn't think that he would be there, but anyway, I said, okay, let me just stay behind him. But the water was already there. It was very difficult to see, and unfortunately for him, he made a mistake, and I got away. I fell behind Jake. I was 10-9 seconds, and I just said, no, I'm not going to push any harder because he's too far away. I just want to play it safe, and playing it safe got me some pressure from behind. So,
100%.
Ross gave me carrots up to the end. I knew I had 2 seconds on him, so I didn't worry too much because he had a 2-second penalty. So I just kept it cool anyway, and where I could, I've tried to pull a little bit of space just for some breathing, and after that, but I'm very happy with my second place. So, and congratulations, Jakes, you were faultless there, man.
Yeah,
Thanks,
100%. And to you, Jakes, I did say that there was about 2.5 minutes left, and I then said, and here's the race winner. And just as I said that, I was like, oh, Andrew jumped in there and said, hey, just imagine if something does happen, and that's going to be all on you.
Luckily, I didn't hear him.
Yeah. But
I was going to say, you might find Jake's putting some nails in your go-kart seat at the next F400 race or something for that.
But Jakes, the qualifying was very, very close up front there, considering you had from first place to 7th place was separated by 0.7 of a second. That we knew it was going to be tough, but the start, that rolling start really served you well. You managed to get yourself a bit of a breathing gap going to turn number 2, and then from there you just controlled the race.
Yes, I knew I had to qualify first, otherwise it's going to be difficult for me to pass, because on this track is very difficult to pass. And I knew when I had the first place there, the race was already halfway done. As soon as as long as I kept it on the road, and I just with the start, I was in front, and there wasn't any pressure for me, and if luckily there wasn't any pressure, otherwise I could have made a mistake or two. Yep. But no pressure equals no mistake. So that helped me a lot. And I actually was very surprised when I saw the guys going in a little bit later for the wet tires than me, and how much time they made up there. Yes, that was quite surprising for me. But but it worked out for me, and I'm very happy with that first place. So but congratulations to Ross and Dickie as well.
No, well done, Jakes.
Very well raced.
Jakes, it was an absolute masterclass and an absolute pleasure to see. But yes, we do want to possibly see a little bit more pressure coming from some of the other guys.
Yes, definitely, to make the race a little bit interesting for me as well.
Yeah.
We're trying our best.
You might regret saying that. You might really regret that.
So guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It was absolutely fantastic to watch. Don't forget that next week we will be at the Autodromo Nacional Monza. That will be clear with overcast weather, so a very interesting fast track, so we know that anything can happen there. So well done, guys. Thank you very much, and we really look forward to seeing you in next week.
Cheers,
thanks a lot, man. Cheers, bye.
So to the help that I had this evening from Ashley, who helped me in the commentary box, Tyler, who was our director for both races. Tyler, thank you very much for your assistance, and also just keeping your eyes on what's happening behind the scenes. And then to Andrew, thank you so much for joining me in the commentary box. It was an absolute pleasure to have you, and anytime you're keen to come and talk some racing with me, you're more than welcome to join.
Thanks so much for having me, Dill, and thanks to Tyler for doing such a great job on the directing. And talking racing is probably my second favorite thing to do. So you don't have to convince me too hard.
No, 100%. So guys,
thanks for having me.
And your pleasure. Guys, thank you very much. Don't forget, we will be back next week, but there will be more racing happening on Monday, where we go to Rapuna Park for our vintage touring cars. And once again, that championship is also tightening up extremely close in both tiers, so don't forget to check that out. So guys, all I can say is until then, thanks for watching and keep racing. Yo's. Now obviously, as I wanted the video to work, now it's not coming through. Found it. Right guys, it's not working for some reason. The music in the background is working, but the video